again, everybody. Welcome to Magic Monday on Aquarius Rising Africa 2. Well, it's just such a wonderful delight, Bryce, to have you as our first guest on our brand new Aquarius Rising Africa 2.
2.0.
A 2.0.
As many of you know by now, our last channel, Aquarius Rising Africa, got struck down on the 1st of April. But yeah, we are back a few days later, and yeah, so we have with us on our magical Monday the beautiful Bryce. How are you, honey? So awesome to see you.
Well, I told you when I signed on, nothing makes me more mad when my friends' channels get, take a bullet. So I'm happy to be here with you guys. I know we're going to get you back on my channel. I'm going to share this on my community tab for my viewers. Please, 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 guys, go over and subscribe to Aquarius Rising 2.0 and also the solutions channel for my channel, please, guys, because I know sometimes as humans we'll go, oh, I'll subscribe later. It'll be up, but literally this is a battle. And so we want to make sure that we get the numbers up for Morné and Shanti, because it takes a lot of work to run these channels, and we do it happily. We do it with pleasure and with pride, but we need you guys to help us out too. So please share this with your friends and family, everyone, to get their second channel back up to where it was, and if not greater than where it was before.
Yeah.
Because as I've said to many people, Morné and Shanti, you guys are so gifted. I mean, God, universe, source gave you guys the talent to be able to talk about really hard stuff in such a productive and healthy way. And I know I've said this before, but with all the dirtiness of what's been happening, Aquarius Rising Africa was one of the best channels to go to listen to these subjects, mainly because of Morné and Shanti, because they are able to handle it with such grace and respect. And so we really want to make sure that we've got them out there, guys. We're all in this together. Even if you don't have a platform, you're right here with us. So we got to stand together and get them back out there, because as I said, they knock us down and we just stand up and keep going. We just keep on going. We're not going to back down. Right. So yes.
Yeah, Bryce, what a beautiful words you have to say there. Thank you so, so much. Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's obviously frustrating when these things happen. Um, and as you say, you would know from your channel as well, it's a lot of work and a lot of effort and energy we put into creating awareness out there. But the good news is that all our stuff is still up on our back channel, which is ODYSEE, and Morné will
Yeah.
put the link and stuff below. So please subscribe to the ODYSEE channel, because they don't take us down there. BITCHUTE as well, we're on as well. And as I said, Aquarius Rising Africa 2, but it's in Roman numeral 2, just for searching sake. But yeah, it's great. And we are now as well on Solutions, still the back channel. Um, and as you say, Bryce, it is an information war out there right now. There's just so much craziness going on. But you know what? Yeah, we are. And we still together, and we still laughing, and we still having fun. It's Magical Monday, and we are talking about the devil's letter today.
I'm so excited because
Uh,
this is like the crux of my weirdness. This is like really how I started my channel, was because I've always really been fascinated by these like weird stories. You're like, wait a minute, something's not right. Like this is crazy.
something.
And so that is how I actually started my channel, was doing like storytelling around weird subjects. Of course, I started in Georgia and
Yeah.
then ventured out, because in my opinion, the truth, as we're learning, the truth is often crazier than the fiction. And we are spiritual beings, we are creators ourselves. And so these weird stories that happen, there's always an explanation behind them. And I think with this story in particular, we're looking at one of these, we'll just call them a family in the club. in a situation that happened that I was telling Morné and Shanti when we first signed on, I covered this story about a year ago on my channel, and my opinion now has actually changed from then. So I'm glad we're going back and re-talking about this, because I've learned more. I've learned more about our reality. And so it shifted my perspective on this actual story. Have you guys heard of the Devil's Letter? Have y'all heard of it at all?
No, so I'm very excited to hear about this.
Me too.
Well, this is an interesting one, guys, and it kind of has a modern twist to it too. We were in Sicily last week talking about Rosalia Lombardo, the child mummy, the embalmed, and so we're going to stay in Sicily, even though this is not the catacombs. This is an interesting story that happened over 300 years ago, but yet they just started solving this letter in 2017 during, oddly enough, during the Great Awakening. So this again is called the Devil's Letters, and this is about a letter again that was written at a convent in 1676. So we're going to kind of jump around a little bit to kind of explain what happened. So let's talk about August 11th of 1676 to begin with. And this was at the Palma de Montechiaro convent. Now again, apologies, I'm not Italian. So if I mispronounce these names, then I am so sorry. I'm sure people will correct us in the comment section below. But this is a convent system. So the nuns were like hanging out, I guess, doing what nuns do at a convent. I don't know. I'm not Catholic, so I never had nuns, but they heard their Sister Maria, and this was a woman, Sister Maria Crucifisca, which she was 31 years old at the time, and they heard her screaming from her bedroom. And so they ran to her bedroom, they came into the room, and she had ink all over her hands and her face, and there were all these strange letters she had written scattered everywhere, and they were written in a weird language. They were they could not decipher what was this letter said, and they believed that the letters were the work of Satan, that this woman, this nun, had channeled Satan himself. Okay, and so they ended up putting one of the letters up at the convent at that time as a warning, and that letter stayed up at that convent until 2017, when the Ludum Science Center pulled the letter down and to go and try to figure out what it said. Now, the Ludum Science Center was able to decipher some of the letter, 30%, or excuse me, 70% of the letter, by using the dark web. Weird. They found a program on the dark web that all these governments all around the world, which if you're watching us, we know, Morné, Shanti, and I know, it's not all of countries against countries. We're all in the same boat. It's literally the rulers of our countries against the people, right? And so these governments all over the world had been using this program to decipher coding. And that's how they were able to solve 70% of the Devil's Letter. Now, my question is, and I'm always like, why is this on the dark web, and why are governments keeping this from us, and why do they have this are they getting like communication from other planets, and that's why they have this? I don't know. That's just kind of where my head goes. So we're going to get to what was said in the Devil's Letter at the end of the program. But it was scrambled. So the letters were scrambled: Arabic, Greek, the runic alphabet, and Latin. Now, these were all languages that Sister Maria Crucifisca spoke. She was very well educated, which we're going to get to that, all right? So she did speak all of these languages. However, the way it was scattered around, and I think I sent you, Morné, a picture of the letter.
Yes.
People can see it.
Shanti, can you just give me that sharing rights? Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, ooh, this looks interesting.
And the fact that they were able to figure it out in 2017 is wild to me, because again, this is the Great Awakening, right? This was the only letter that was left. Now, there were apparently at the time of August 11th, 1676, when, according to how the story goes, when they walked into her room, she had tons of letters everywhere, and she couldn't remember writing them. It was like she had channeled Satan himself. Now, oddly enough, how the story goes is that she could read this once she came to, but she refused to. I don't know if that's true or not. I wasn't there. So, but that is the one letter they have left. All right. 30% of the letter is still not legible. 30% of the letter, they still don't know what it says. So let's talk about who this sister, this nun was. Because when I first saw the Devil's Letter, now this is my dorky, nerdy mind coming out. When I first found this letter, I was more interested in the letter than anything. But of course, I was like, well, who the hell is this nun? That's her. Because who is this person that's written this letter? Because I always want to follow the line back. And holy shit, excuse my language, holy crap. I feel like I struck gold tracing her lineage, because it's always the same players, guys. It's always the same players.
Yep.
So, and I actually
Wow.
think she's a victim, though. And this is why I was saying I want to get Jesse's opinion on this, because I think she might have been a victim of some stuff herself. So her real name, her birth name was Isabella Tomasi. Now, if you remember from last week when we were talking about the catacombs in the island of Sicily, Sicily was not really part of Italy for a huge chunk of time, as they tell us. Now, again, I believe that our years and our dates are off and our history is off a little bit. But from what we know, the kingdom of Sicily lasted from 1130 to 1816. Now, this is going to become very, very, very important to remember that Sicily was its own kingdom at the time of this because of her family, the Tomasi family. All right. So she was born on the 29th of May, 1645, which is also my little niece's birthday, but she was born in 2021, not 1645. And she was born to a very powerful and noble family. She was the daughter of a duke. Now, what's a duke? A duke is a prince. All right. So she comes from a very, very, very powerful family. They were very, very strict Catholics, and that they were feudal landlords. So that means that they were the tippy top of the pyramid, if you want to say it that way. Now, interestingly enough, the convent where Isabella, who would become Sister Maria, would end up writing this letter was built by her family. And I think I sent you a picture of the convent, Morné. It's Palma de Montechiaro. Again, I hope I'm saying that correct. Not Italian. So that's the convent. Now, hold on one second. Now, her family gave the money and the land to build the convent. So again, we know with the Catholic Church that, as well as now, I think all churches and most religions, they're at the tippy top of this, we'll just say the situation that we're in, right? We know that there's a lot of nefarious stuff going on. And the fact that her family is super, super powerful is like red flags to me. Not only are they powerful, but they are a bloodline family. So their family goes all the way back, the Tomasi family goes all the way back to the Byzantine Empire. All right, so that's the Ludum Science Center that actually solved the letter. All right, so the family bloodline goes back to 330 AD. And this is where I was like, oh, hell no, when I started researching this story, because everybody knows that I have a bone to pick with Constantine the Great, quote unquote, the Great, because he was a nefarious player who created the Council of Nicaea, who threw out most of the books of the Bible. He was the first one to do that, to create Christianity into the religion of Mithraism. I've talked about that on my channel a lot, Mithraism. That's what Christianity is today. It's not the teachings of Yahshua, it's Mithraism. That was what Constantine did. Now, the church has sainted Constantine. Of course they have. Of course they have, right? He was a very violent man, Constantine the Great. He was corrupt. He destroyed the Republic of if Roman Empire existed, which I'm doubting that now, but if it did exist, he destroyed that republic and turned the Roman Empire into a new world. I won't say the last word for censorship purposes, but you guys know what we're talking about. And he destroyed the true Christian faith. So the Tomasi bloodline comes from Constantine the Great. They're direct descendants of Constantine through Flavius Julius Crispus, who was Constantine's son. He was called the junior emperor. He was the firstborn son. He was born at some point at the beginning of the 4th century. And at 320, he was given control of the military power in Gaul, which is what we call France now, Gaul. All right. So his mother, Flavius's mother, Julius Crispus's mother, was one of Constantine's concubines, a woman named Miravina, but he was honored, Flavius was honored as his actual son, all right? Because this is now where the Tomasi bloodline comes through. Now, he had a huge talent for the military, and in 321 AD, Crispus married and has a son with a woman named Helena. This woman is Lucino Lampardo, or the leopard. Okay, so now this is interesting because the leopard is part of the Tomasi line. The leopard is still on the family crest of the Tomasi family that is still in Sicily to this day. And yes, there it is. So there's that leopard. So this family bloodline, guys, literally goes back to Constantine. And the church will tell you that Constantine the Great had this like overwhelming experience where he saw Jesus on the battlefield. It's all bullshit. Never happened. Okay. And how do we know this never happened? Because after the Council of Nicaea, where Constantine created the dogmatic Christian church we know today, he actually had his son Crispus executed in 326 AD. He had Crispus, his head chopped off. He also had his wife Faustus, which would have been Crispus's stepmother, executed by boiling her alive. Oh. This does not sound like a man who found the love of Jesus, in my opinion.
No.
This does not sound like a man who found Christ's love. No. This sounds like a very violent man. The reason why he had his son executed and his wife executed is because there were rumors that they were having an affair. They weren't. According to the legend, he just, you know, had a hankering for violence. And I don't know any parent out there that would ever allow their child, would call for their child's execution unless they were a psychopath. So through the son, the leopard, the Lancino, that is the son, again, that now carries this bloodline. So they stayed in the area of Constantinople, which is modern day Turkey, until the 7th century. Between 1640 and 1646 AD, two twin brothers fled Constantinople for the island of Sicily. And this is because there was political upheaval and struggle among the elite. And so again, this is the elite families. They run to Sicily. Now they're here and they're going to take over Sicily. So again, this is the Tomasi line. This is the nun that wrote this letter. This is her family bloodline. All right. So in Sicily, this is important to note too, if anybody's watching and wants to do your own research into these family lines, you have to understand this idea of Salic law. I hope I'm saying that right. Now, Salic law existed in empires like France, England. It's where the name and the power runs through the boys in the family, the sons. But in Sicily, there was no Salic law. And so it ran through the females as well. Okay, and so that is how this family stronghold has stayed for so many generations, is because it just ran through the children. It didn't matter if there were no sons born, it would run through the daughters as well. All right, so now let's take it back. So I want everybody to remember that this is a woman that comes from a very, very corrupt family, a very, very wealthy and powerful family. They are one of the bloodline families through Constantine the Great that we're still dealing with to this day, okay? And they are heavily into the control matrix of religion, which we know is one of the 3 pillars of this club, right? We'll call it the club: religion, military, money. Religion. They are controlling the powers of religion. So now let's go to the 7th of October, 1660. So Isabella and her sisters Francesca and Antonia are forced to enter the convent, all right, that the family built. They're forced to. There's no choice here. These sisters have to go to the convent. Okay, Isabella at this point was 15 years old. Now, for us in today's society, for us healthy-minded people, I should say, who are not corrupt, we see 15-year-olds as children. Okay, obviously different time back then, and now we're becoming more and more aware that people in our population also don't see children as off limits. But you know, that's a story for another day. But the bishop of the convent took a lot of interest in Isabella, heavy interest in Isabella, so much so that he called in the Jesuits to give her a special visit. So around this time, 3 Jesuit priests were sent to this convent that Isabella's family built. It basically became her prison, and that she was forced to go to. And these 3 Jesuit priests were called in to inspect her. And so they spent many a nights locked up in a room. Isabella, a 15-year-old child, locked up in a room with 3 Jesuit priests. No one there to save her. Now, in my opinion, if I had to assume, if I had to guess, this was probably not Isabella's first experience with, we'll say, ritualistic stuff, right? And you guys know what we're talking about. This is what Morné and Chantelle are really good at talking about. I would assume, from what we know, using critical thinking, that she had been groomed for this her whole freaking life. I don't know why Isabella was targeted more than her sisters. I'm assuming she was targeted more than her sisters because we don't hear much about her sisters. We just hear a lot about her.
Well, just firstly, I would think it would be because of her spiritual gifts. You know, they target them with their spiritual gifts. And then some of their sisters, with their siblings, they let them live a cover life to hide their own experience at first stage. And if she wrote this letter, obviously she had a gift for channeling or something, yes. And that's what they wanted to use her. So
that's a really good point, Morné. I think that's a really, because we know, I mean, the first episode I did with you guys, we talked about the RH negative, and we know that people like Shanti and myself are RH negative, and people who are RH negative are have propensities to like see things, to see spirits, so there are gifts that people are born with, and gifts are gifts, and if you put it in the wrong hands, it's going to be molded. We know that the club, the group likes RH negatives. They like having that because they can mold it and direct it in their own, for their own nefarious purposes. So that's really good point, Morné, that you brought that up. So after the initial visit from the Jesuits, Isabella's behavior started to change drastically. And you can actually look, the Mother Abyss they still have her, where she journaled and chronicled all of Isabella's sister Maria at this time's behavior. Fainting spells. She kept claiming that the devil was coming to her and trying to get her to serve him. And a lot of people have now, a lot of therapists have looked at Isabella's case in modern times. And we're talking about, matrix-based therapists who have now diagnosed Isabella with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. But it's interesting because I went and read a bunch of comments on a bunch of articles yesterday regarding this particular diagnosis. And so many people who are not in our arena of understanding were calling them out and saying, no, this is not behavior of someone typically with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. Like the fainting spells, all this stuff does not show. To me, what it shows is disassociation. I feel like he was trying to disassociate. That's the first thing that came to my head, and here is this child who had no help, no resources, and she's trying the best she can psychologically to survive. And that's where disassociation comes into play. And, I've said it before, a family of normal people can have one psychopath in it. A family of psychopaths can also therefore give birth to a child that probably has a conscience and a soul. And I think we see a lot of that disassociation too in these behaviors from some of these children that are so mind scrambled, so confused, but there is a conscience there. There is empathy there that maybe their parents lacked. And so I think for her, we go back to the letter, part of me, when I first read this case or studied this case, I was still under the impression of the story that we had been told about Jesus or Yahshua, that he was crucified, all this kind of stuff. I still believed that. Now, a year later, I have done a lot of look myself into Tartaria. And so I'm starting to believe that maybe he wasn't ever really crucified, and that was a story created because the S word, I'm going to be careful about what we say. The S word is something that Lucifer demands. It's not something that our God would ever demand, any type of even animal rituals like that. And so, when I first studied this case and I saw who Isabella, what she had done, I thought maybe she was just really being tormented by the devil. But then when we look at the translation of the letter, or what we've been given as the translation of the letter, part of me is wondering, Was she trying to tell us the truth? And I don't know. This is where, again, my opinions kind of changed a little bit, because in the letter, from what the translations that we have, and again, guys, I don't speak any of these languages that she did. I don't know the program that they used on the dark web. I don't even really know how to get on the dark web. I've never tried to get on the dark web. So I don't know for sure if the translation they're giving us is correct. But basically what they got from this letter was that they said that Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God were basically dead weights to keep humanity in bondage. Now, if we're looking at this, that from the perspective, if we just entertain idea, as Aristotle said, it's a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting, because I know this might ruffle some feathers. We're just asking you to think about this. If the story that the church tells us about Jesus being crucified isn't true, if that's not a true story, and if there is this now matrix that's been developed around religion to keep us in bondage, is that what Isabella was trying to say? That you have fallen in, that God does exist, Yahshua exists, but the story you've been told is not the right story, and it's keeping you held in bondage to this club, to this group, for their purposes. Again, when I first covered this story, I believed the story we were told in churches, but now I'm not so sure anymore. So I'm seeing this letter from two different perspectives. Either it's totally channeled from the devil and it's a disgusting letter, or it's her disassociating and trying to tell the truth. The thing the letter does talk about is this idea of Styx. And Styx is spelled the same way the band Styx plays it. Spells it, which I love Styx. I went to see Styx with my parents. You know, you've reached a certain age when you can go see bands with your parents, and you both want to get out at a certain time to beat traffic. And in the band Styx wrote the song "The Grand Illusion." This is all just a grand illusion. So that's interesting. Well, Styx in mythology was this river that divided the living from the underworld. All right. And so the way I kind of started seeing this with fresh eyes was she talking about the veil, the lifting of the veil? Does it necessarily mean the underworld as in hell? Or does it just mean the other side of the veil, that Styx is kind of representing that barrier between our physical world and the quantum? I don't know. That's why multiple heads are better than one with these situations. Now, again, if Isabella did have spiritual gifts and the propensity to be able to communicate with beings on the other side of the veil, was that her way of kind of saying, like, there's more to our story than meets the eye? I don't know. I would love to hear everybody's opinion on this, because it could be one of two things. Now, with Isabella, she ended up dying in 1699. All right. Now, before I hear opinions from you guys, I really want to hear opinions, I'm going to go ahead and make sure we cover Giuseppe Tomasi. So who is Giuseppe Tomasi? So he is a descendant of the Tomasi family. Tomasi, he is one of these descendants. That's him. He died in 1957. He was born in 1896. Now, remember, you guys, I told you that the kingdom of Sicily was a kingdom from 1130 to 1816. So he was born very soon after Sicily was annexed to become part of Italy. Now, he was born a nobleman. Obviously, he's part of the Tomasi family. They've been noble since Constantine the Great. And he ended up becoming a writer. Now, he wrote an Italian novel called The Leopard. All right, which again, the leopard is the family crest of the Tomasi family. That he titled his novel The Leopard. It was published in 1958, and in 1963 they made a movie. It's 3 hours. I've watched the movie. When I first covered this case, I sat down and I watched the movie of The Leopard. I had to watch subtitles because, again, I don't speak Italian, so I had to watch it in subtitles. But it was all about the war and basically it goes into like family bloodlines and caste systems, and this family that's these rulers of Sicily, and the son meets this woman who is not from a noble family, but her family is actually wealthier than the family who's like a ruler, but yet she's still considered marrying up because she's marrying into it gets all into the environment of these weird rules that exist within this group. Okay. And so that is what this book was about. Now, a lot of people who know that Giuseppe Tomasi is a descendant or in the family of Isabella Tomasi, the nun who wrote the Devil's Letter, will tell you, the book, the novel, The Leopard, has fuck all to do with what happened to Isabella Tomasi. Where I say, oh no, it has everything to do with what happened to Isabella Tomasi. They're telling you about these families. They're literally telling you, and this is what they have done. They're telling you why something happened to Isabella. He's telling you in this book, and it is said that Giuseppe Tomasi himself, rest in peace, that he had a very interesting relationship with his mother, that there was a lot of affection, we'll just say it that way. All right, so these practices have literally been around since the beginning of these bloodlines, these family lines. And so that's why I wanted to bring that book up too, because this is still happening. And again, I think we all know this watching this, they've been telling us this. They've literally been telling us this. So I'm going to ask Chantelle and Morné, what's y'all's opinion on the Devil's Letter? Do you think it was the devil, or do you think she was trying to disassociate and like tell us the truth?
I've always got very interesting opinions, and I would always go for the twisted, the cute little curveball. That's the one I would always go for. So it wouldn't surprise me if I think there's always a lot of truth within, wrapped up in lots of layers of what have you. So, well, if we look at the devil, or Lucifer, Lucy, he's God's creation, and was God's favorite angel, and God doesn't make mistakes.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless me, that's fun. So, God doesn't make mistakes, in my opinion. So what I'm saying with that is that I think there's a lot, even if the letter did come from the devil, I think there's a lot to be philosophized about. I'm a great one that likes to philosophize about these things, because I think there are so many layers of stuff, and I do feel she had disassociated, yeah, for sure. And then of course you perceive things in a different way. So,
yeah.
My opinion.
What about you, Morné?
That Chantelle was not finished. My opinion.
Are you finished?
No, carry on. I am. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think, like it could be either, but at the end of the day, it's what we perceive it to be, Is it going to be a distraction? Is it going to be a deception? Is it going to be an awakening? Like everything in the world, it's like we have to use our own discernment at the end of the day. Does it resonate? Yeah. Does the truth make your life different, or does it really matter? But I like to think about all the it could be like both. In the same way, it could be disassociation and channeling at the same time. And yes, I think Jesus did suffer on the cross. I don't necessarily believe he died completely. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I do have a feeling. But I also agree with how that kept people stuck in stuff. So the guilt, you have to work hard because somebody did something to save our lives, and you have to be worried for that saving of our lives. So in that sense, it keeps you stuck. It's like a mass spell,
Yeah.
So like Constantine and their family, rewriting the Bible. In some way, maybe humans were so freaking ignorant and stupid that they had to, somewhere God had to make them feel guilty and just get to this place where you can just like, it's like a safe, like make the kids feel bad about themselves so that they can behave a little bit more. I don't know, God has a weird sense of way of doing stuff.
Like sitting us to etiquette school.
The truth is definitely distorted. There's no doubt about it. When it comes to Jesus's life, the truth is distorted. There's so much more to Jesus and everything that happened around him. I just think the main thing is about the compassion and, living from that space of heart that Jesus taught. But I think both options are true in that sense. And it can be a trap. It can be a trap. I mean, a lot of Christians, they get stuck in this guilt trip and they have to like live up to God. And God is just like, you're my son, you're my daughter. You don't need to prove anything to me. Just like, be yourself, love. And so there is a trap in that whole story.
Well, that's what it got me, because one of the translations, and I think this is kind of weird, because one of the things they translated was that they used the word dead weights, which in my opinion, that sounds like a really modern term. Now, again, I wasn't there in 1674. They could have been using the term dead weight. I don't know, but that does seem like a very modern term. And again, when I reread it to prepare for this show from a year ago, I saw it in a different light, that she was talking about the self-imposed bondage, that we put ourselves in this bondage. And I know I've just redid we went through the Gospel of Mary Magdalene again on my channel. And I was, in her gospel, she talks a lot about how, I'm paraphrasing guys, how, when a child is born, when you're born with the Spirit of God inside of you. You don't have to invite it in. You don't have to go looking for it. It's always there. It's always there. And so when I reread the Devil's Letter and what was translated, it was almost like I could see Isabella in a new light, like wanting to shake people and be like, you are living in a prison. You are free. Like you are living in this bondage of this story that's been told to you by a man, by one of her ancestors. And then the whole idea with the sticks reference, like you are closer to the spiritual world than you even realize. It's literally right in front of you. It's just, you have this veil. And of course, it seems like it's no accident that in 2017, that's when they decided to actually try to translate this letter, because what are we in now? We're in the Great Awakening. We're understanding the veil is thinning. But again, 30% of the letter is still not able to be translated. And there's also another twist to this. How do we know they translated it properly? Because I don't speak Aramaic. I don't speak all these different languages. I wouldn't know how to piece them together to create another language. So then there's another twist. At the end of the day, I think the one thing I do know for sure is my empathy and my heart and my love goes out to the woman who was Isabella Tomasi. I feel nothing but, like, every time I read about her story, I just want to cry. The fainting spells, the fear. She was obviously very paranoid. And I can only imagine what happened to her. And I see her as an absolute victim in all of this. And I hope that, and I do pray that when she didn't live that long. She passed away in 1690. She was in her 40s. She's close to my age when she passed away. And I do hope that she was able to find some rest within her soul once she left her own bondage of her body in that life. This all I was going to bring up too. So have you guys heard of the Voynich manuscript or the Codex Gigas?
No, gosh, what's that?
So these are other items, we'll say, that have interesting stories around them where they're not able to be decoded, and a lot of people have believed they're associated with Satan. So this was going to be my next question to you guys. I know we're looking at the catacombs and the world, but since we covered the Devil's Letter, would you guys want to next week start looking at the Voynich manuscript and the other two?
I'd love to. Wow.
Yes.
Most definitely.
This isn't the only time, guys. This is not the Devil's Letter. It's not the one time where they're like, what does this say? No, it's happened before.
Wow.
It's happened before. So
most definitely,
yeah.
I would love that.
So, yeah, it's
I like codes and things like that, because when I
It's
look
like
at
we
this,
get to see Nancy Drew.
I really can like already start reading that letter in a sense, because I know alchemist codes and symbols and
Oh,
symbolisms. So it's like okay, it's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. If you look
oh,
at my
I'd love
journal,
to hear it.
sometimes I
I'd
do
love
like
to hear it.
stuff.
If you could translate some of that would be awesome.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think I can translate it, but it looks like interesting, you know, curiosity, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and
But
this is
yeah,
again,
Very
this is
interesting.
this stuff
it looks
fascinates people.
familiar.
And
That's the word.
okay, so that's another interesting thing. So a lot of people have said there's some symbolism there that is familiar. Now, this is a theory that I've heard. Okay, so if a lot of us are what they call star seeds, so I know the three of us are star seeds, meaning our soul didn't originate here on Earth. Our soul is from another galaxy. That's what a star seed means, right? So I know that I've heard that people who have a lot of tattoos, who get like sleeves of tattoos, normally that's a sign that that person is 100% a star seed, because apparently in other galaxies, they have light language on their body. And so that's what people who do a lot of tattoos are looking for. They're missing their light language, right? So with that being said, if there's symbolism that's perhaps maybe it's not Aramaic and runic alphabet and Greek mixed together. Maybe it is. Maybe she was channeling a galactic language.
Starseed language. Yeah.
Maybe she was. Who knows?
That'd be very interesting. You know, but isn't this the beauty of exploring these types of things? Because it's really, there are so many possibilities, and it's a mystery, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing, and it's true. Who said that it is those languages or whatever they said it was being translated as? It's potentially anything, but I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I think we're going to get more answers. Yeah, because the Ludwig Science Center, I mean, this is the same. I'm not saying that everybody who works for these organizations is bad. We know that with human beings, there's a lot of gray. We know that. But now that we're learning, a lot of these institutions across the world that are like government funded, they're not for our benefit.
Yeah, no, government funded doesn't sound good.
No, it's to help. It's to protect it's to protect the Tomasi family. You know, it's to protect Constantine.
Yeah.
And it's so ridiculous. Why do we have to have private schools and private funded and private stuff when we give our tax money away for government? I think maybe overseas it's a little bit better, but here in Africa, these like freaking people, the hospitals fall apart. Everything is like disgusting, and yet these like they like ride their cars and have their mansions. At least I know it's like in Germany and stuff, they Europe, I know they get like at least some free healthcare and all that stuff. But yeah, my point is, why should they be privately funded? The governmentally funded is supposed to like look after the people. It's
and
ridiculous.
the people should be able to see everything. That's what makes me mad, is when I see like
people don't see it. Yeah, people don't even
the dark web. Like that should be open. Everybody in the public. That's what makes me mad about. We have so much. I know you guys in Africa too. There's so much land that the government won't let you go on. Right? Like the public's not allowed on this land. Why? It's our fucking land. It's our earth.
I agree.
Who said you could lock it off? Like this is our. I was born on this earth just like you were. Why did you get to go on that? It's like my friend Stephanie, who did a huge deep dive into the Grand Canyon, where there's all these like Isis temples, Shiva temples, and the government's completely blocked it off, won't let people there, because if there's an Isis temple there, if there's Buddhist carvings there, why are those there? Then that means the story, the narrative we've been told and taught in history is completely wrong.
Yeah, there's just like Egyptian temples in the Grand Canyon. Yeah, I saw that. And know what's funny? Superman, the new Superman series as well, that's on the new one. Apparently, his evil brother has like a fortress in the Grand Canyon. Superman usually has his fortress most like in the North Pole. Well, his evil brother had one in the Grand Canyon, apparently, to this series, and they obviously talk with codes. So, There's
They're
definitely
telling us.
something happening. Yeah.
They're
There's some.
and I've watched. So I got really, when I started to wake up to well, somebody had sent me something about the Chicago's World Fair that happened at the end, I believe the end of the 19th century. And why did the Chicago's World Fair happen? Well, they built this whole fairground, but they built it around what we now know were actual ruins of Roman architect. And why they built it around that is so that when the fair was done, they could tear it down, so that the people would not know that there were Roman ruins on the American continent, which means that there were white people here there's been white people here for a really long time, if not perhaps even native to this continent, which totally destroys their narrative, especially the narrative they're trying to say here in America, where, you know, people of our skin color are not good because we were bad. But if they were here though, then that blows that narrative out the window. So they did, so when they took the fair down, they could destroy all these artifacts. Well, then I followed even more. I kept following that rabbit hole, and I found that all these this money had been found all over the Midwest here in what's now the United States, with Alexander Helios's face on it. Well, who's Alexander Helios? He's Cleopatra and Mark Antony's son. And apparently, according to what we were taught in school, when they were removed, Cleopatra and Mark Antony, the Roman Empire then took over Egypt, and her children were married off, and they just kind of faded out into history. Well, the fact that there's coins with Alexander Helios's face on them means that that's not true, that their son actually did rule at one point.
I was gonna say that's a ruler or a king.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So that blows that out the water. Then if we actually have the evidence, and then you go into the Grand, and as I was following that rabbit hole, that's when I was watching all these people, because a lot of the Native Americans, like the Navajo and the whole area where the Grand Canyon is, will tell you that there are Egyptian mummies all over the Grand Canyon. It's not just like one, like there are tons. But when people will put little cameras on and go and try to find it, all of a sudden government officials show up, helicopters show up. It is like so fiercely guarded by the United States government, and our tax money is paying them to guard it from us. Yeah. That's what pisses me off too. It's such a scam. And it's like, you know, and my thing is like, why would they want to hide this? Why would anyone care if the narrative, you know, as human beings, we're just trying to figure out who we are, where we came from, all that kind of stuff. And so if we need to change some things because we find more evidence to support another theory, who cares? We just change the narrative. So there's obviously a reason why this group is trying to keep this information from us. There's something going on behind this. And you know,
I definitely think there's a portal. There's a portal or a space like station, not space station, but like there's something like there's a portal, there's energy like highway going on in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
But history, it's just insane how history is blinded to us, because we've been given this fake history all our lives, and so much is hidden. And as a human species, our history really, people can say, oh, well, what if they lied? It doesn't matter. I am who I am. But like the truth will set you free to understand that like how amazing human beings have been and how far we've gone and how many times we've killed ourselves over and over again because of our ignorance. You know, that truth will set us free. And I really would love a time where history is transparent. It's like we can all just watch this big movie and God just shows us our true history, like what really happened. Because it's crazy how many lies we've been, and how many stuff have been happening. I mean, I saw that meme with the Vikings coming to North America. It's like the white man have discovered America without killing the Native Americans, and they went back, you know? There was a time when the white man discovered, and without killing all the Native Americans, you know?
Well, what if like white men were already here? Like, that's like, what if they were part of it? Like, that's what's so wild to me. Have you guys seen the map? Of the American continent, where it's showing that what we think of as like Egypt and Israel is not, that Israel was the Grand Canyon and Egypt was where I live in like Florida. Like, we don't even understand geographically where everything happened, which would
Yeah.
explain all the artifacts found in America. And it also I've kind of thought about that. I'm like, that's why Mr. T kept saying America first. It wasn't about, it's like a double-edged sword. It meant as a leader, he had to protect his people, but was he also telling us that the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, the beginning of human life, was actually on this continent? Not mirror everything, right? You mirror everything. I don't know. And as I say on my channel all the time, guys, we're just speculating because we have access to the same history books you do. So this
Absolutely.
is just.
But I think, when we're looking at stuff like Tartaria, and we're going back, and these are the sort of things that are now starting to be revealed and rediscovered and stuff like that. I think, honestly, as we go forward, more and more of this sort of stuff is going to be discovered or rediscovered and revealed. And we will start discovering, for example, when we, again, looking at that stuff, we see how they used to harness energy, free energy for the planet, in the ways that they did, using the natural resources. It's insane. That's just scratching. I don't want to get into that now. That's really just scratching the surface. But the point is, there is so much more to what we've been given access to, that sort of thing, because what they're saying there as well, there wasn't a kind of an invasion on Earth that took over and destroyed all of those things, however many years ago, and but there's still evidence that it exists and that it worked, and some of it is still working, so we really have to get back to that. And I think as we're moving forward, that will happen. I really do.
And it's this whole conversation that we're having around Tartaria, the American continent, like what the real truth is what changed my perspective on Isabella Tomasi's letter. And it's amazing that's the beautiful thing about the human mind, is when you allow yourself to see and just take in all this information, you can see so many different perspectives on the same story. And it gives you a deeper understanding of human beings and how we are all connected. And we are, and like I said, the whole thing is like with Isabella, I just feel, I want to cry for her, even though she lived over 300 years ago. Like, I want to cry for her, but that same thing is still happening today. To girls just like
it's never stopped. When we're just looking at this, what you were doing was the researching her bloodlines and stuff. I mean, from there you can see that these things have been going on since forever. So it's not like it's just been happening in the last 50 years or whatever. It's been going on since the beginning of time. This is so firmly entrenched into our planet, but we understand that this is the Luciferian planet, right? We get that now. And so naturally, those things are going to be entrenched, or those habits, ideas, practices, whatever. But I think, sorry, I want to just say, but I think as we are obviously moving into the new dimensions, that stuff is also going to be dissolved. And the more we reclaim and remember, and the more we question exactly this, Bryce, and without this single-minded idea about what's right and what's wrong. So
I mean, like the whole thing with that's like I said, the whole mystery of how she wrote, you have one camp that is like, oh, this girl just had bipolar disorder, she was schizophrenia, that's it. But if you open your mind and look at everything, her family bloodline, everything that's happened, the truth of who we are, the fact that she probably was spiritually gifted, she could see beyond the veil, it opens up a whole other door to possibilities. And it's just us questioning the narrative. It's just going, no, I don't think this girl had bipolar disorder. I don't think she was schizophrenic. I think that's us questioning that narrative. I believe
it's a label. It's labels, again, we labeled, and just because she could possibly hear spirit or, as you say, see beyond the veil, then she was labeled that and probably
by
locked
modern
up.
science today. They're just like, oh, the
Exactly.
scientists are like, don't look at this. She was just a mentally disturbed girl. It's nothing. It's just some crazy letter a mentally disturbed girl wrote. That's the narrative they're trying to tell us, which is like, no, 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 no. This girl might have been disturbed, but it wasn't because of her own doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah,
maybe she was thrown under the bus because she tried to like bring out the truth, you know, and then they label them crazy people. It's like when you're groomed in the system and you worked and you're all good and you go up, but when you be naughty, they like label you as a girl.
Even in the 1600s.
But
I mean, I'm sorry.
Shanti said it. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Shanti said it perfectly, remembering. As soon as we start remembering who we are as a person, you know, as soon as we start like dealing with our own lifetime right here, remembering our childhood, forgiving our family, you know, remembering who you are. And that's, I think, what's happening in the world. People are starting to remember what it is to be human. And as we start waking up, the truth stares us in the face.
Yeah.
You know, the truth can't be hidden for that long. So the more we wake up inside, the more we will see the truth in front of us.
Yeah.
It's been in front of us all the time. We just have to think logical. We just have to think, okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That's it.
And I think the more we awaken to that, the more we awaken to what we feel like empathy, compassion. Like, I just want to hug Isabella Tomasi. Like, we start to see the human behind these experiences. And God bless her soul, like the torment she was under. If 3 Jesuits come to visit you, it's not going to be a good night. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be a good night. You know, no one's going to be saved soul that night. Like, I don't think Yahshua's going to be there. Like, when the Jesuits come, like, that's not. And to be in a situation where you can't even get help. And so I do hope.
No, it's rough.
Yeah. It's rough. And
with the stuff we know, she probably went through the rituals and stuff even earlier in her life. Probably if she's got all the bloodlines, and obviously she started early, like what, 3, 4, 5 years old. So
depends.
15 years
earlier.
Yeah.
Some sort of infancy, right? Don't they start some in their infants?
Sometimes even in the womb.
Lots of times in the womb. Yeah.
Especially bloodlines.
Yeah, the bloodlines and the.
So for those who are watching who did not have that happen to you, go and hug your moms, your mothers.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hug my mommy right now.
Grateful
for being a normal human being and being like, I have to protect this life inside of me, you know. So
for everybody that thinks their mom is not good enough because they didn't get their like lollipop this afternoon. Seriously, love you,
Isabella Tomasi. I am sure that those children like Isabella Tomasi, who grew up with every advantage in the world, all the power, all the money, would have traded it all for parents that loved them and truly loved them and didn't hurt them. They probably would have traded it all for that. So, go hug your parents if you did not grow up like Isabella Tomasi. Go hug your parents.
Yeah.
Absolutely, go hug your parents and go hug your kids as well, and your brothers and your pets.
Your pets, yes. I'll tell you a funny story with pets before we get off. This morning, I like 5 o'clock in the morning, I turned my side lamp on, and my dog Ravi got so mad at me for turning the light on. He literally stood up in the bed and like put his face in my face, like, how dare you turn that light on? So he's very spoiled. He hadn't made me lay in bed until like 11 o'clock. So
they're crazy, the animals. I mean, but you know, the cats, they'll wake us up at 5 or 5:30 because they want to eat. So yeah, on that note, absolutely go and hug, go and love, go and be kind, and go and be cool. BRICE, as always, you are wonderful. What an amazing story. I love that. Really.
I can't wait to see what the audience says in the comment section. I'm going to go and read the comments, what y'all's opinions are, because I love hearing all of it. We're like the boxcar children, the Hardy Boys. Don't have that in South Africa, that book series? Like,
of course. I read all
the
about the Hardy Boys. And the Secret Seven. And the Famous Five.
We're gonna figure this stuff out. What's the truth? So, and next we'll
Exactly.
do the Voynich manuscript. We'll talk about the Voynich manuscript and see what people.
Look forward. Wow.
Yes.
Really interested. And as Bryce says, guys, leave us your thoughts in the comments section. It's so interesting to discuss these topics. And honestly, you know, if you don't agree or if you just don't be nasty, just fine then, scroll on. But
Yeah.
it's more just to get an understanding, an idea, you know, get a kind of a discussion going around this. So, yay. Anyway, we have come to the end of our beautiful time with, again, this beautiful woman. We will have you back next week and not 2 weeks. No, no, no. So look forward to that. And guys, if you
T-shirt, solve mysteries.
yes,
Well, she will be back on Solutions on Wednesday. So if you want to go check her out there.
absolutely. So we shall see you on Solutions on Wellness Wednesday or Wonderful Wednesday, and we're talking chakras. We're talking the last 4 chakras, which is very, very interesting. So join us again for that. And as we said earlier, this is the first episode of Aquarius Rising Africa 2. So if you haven't already, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. Find us on Solutions as well. Morné will post all the links and things. So thank you so much, everybody. God bless you all. Mwah. Take good care of yourselves. And Bryce, we shall see you back next week.
Yay.
Bye,
Ciao.
guys.